All right, another week. Hi, Mladen. How are you doing?
Another week, another chance, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think we have some nice things for this week. A lot of stuff happened actually, right?
yeah. We have a couple of interesting points. Well, for everyone that's listening, Leo is on holidays, so he couldn't make it. But next week he'll be back with us. Um, yeah, so we have a couple of interesting points to discuss this week. One of them, Mladen and myself, we're already discussing on Discord as well, and that's regarding data privacy. So for those that don't know, one of my fleet drives a couple of weeks ago got a dashcam that was confiscated in Portugal. And basically he had to show up to the police station, and they asked him to show a certificate that Hivemapper is allowed to map legally in Portugal. Well,
It's
I
surprising.
myself,
It's it's
yes, I
it's quite
yeah, because
surprising asking that, right?
I was under the assumption that we could map, and then I kind of went down the rabbit hole to look into all of the laws of different countries, and it's quite interesting. So in Portugal, at least from what I could see, Hivemapper needs to have a official license with the privacy authority, right? For those in the States that don't know, Europe has quite some strict privacy laws around personal privacy. So a couple of things are already implemented on Hivemapper side. So Hivemapper blurs the face of people, blurs the license plates, but different member states in Europe have different laws, and some are stricter than others. For example, where Mladen is in Holland, there is no specific law against mapping with a dashcam,
Well,
but
I think we need to go a little bit more in detail on that one. What I think it's the case in the Netherlands and in most European countries is as follows. In Europe, you are allowed to use the dashcam or not. But the question that rises, I mean, using my common sense in this case, if I look at Google, who is practically doing the same thing within the European Union, they need to be licensed. And I'm questioning the fact if Hivemapper is actually licensed to do exactly the same what's Google doing.
yeah, so I asked Hivemapper as well. So hey, the so the police has one of my dashcams, right? So and they are asking for this commercial license that Hivemapper is permitted to map for commercial purposes in Portugal. So there is a difference, right, between just having a dashcam for personal use, which in different member states in Europe they have different laws, and then you have the commercial mapping. So these are two separate things, right? So here in Portugal, from what the police mentioned, you are not allowed to even have a dash cam, right? That's number one.
Okay.
You can map for commercial purposes if you have a license with the privacy authority,
Yeah.
which from my understanding Hivemapper does not have. And another case, Germany, right?
Oh yeah,
So we've been discussing Germany a bit. So only this year, 2023, has Google Maps gone back to Germany. So since about 2010, uh, Google Maps was not available or very limited available in Germany. So they had a number of court cases, and they were sued by a number of different people. So actually, in Germany, you also have to blur people's houses. So if Google Maps in a specific street and one of the homeowners can request Google to actually remove or blur their house, and only this year Google has returned to Germany also by having a license with the German privacy authority.
Yeah, I think that the basic issue when recording the outside, I mean, on public places, that's where the difference is between countries. So in the Netherlands, we are allowed to take pictures and videos on public spaces as long as it's for personal use. I think the commercial part cannot be done anywhere in Europe without a license. So yeah, I'm really curious. How is Hivemapper thinking about this? Because I highly doubt that they have any license whatsoever in Europe. I'm not sure how does it work in United States. I think they know the best how to fix that. But within Europe, I'm pretty much sure that there are issues with legality of mapping. And then we are not even discussing how about storage of that data within you. As far as I know, and on a daily basis, I'm dealing with medical data. In the Netherlands and in most European countries, the data needs to be stored on European servers. Even further, Dutch people working abroad for Dutch companies are not allowed to access data if they are not within the European Union physically. So it goes that far. So I'm wondering, I would like to hear the answer of Hivemapper. So how do they just surf on the idea of like, oh, you're allowed to have a Dashcam and we are decentralized, permissionless network, and we go from there? Or I don't know. Am I that naive? I'm not sure.
Yeah, and for I have an article here that says, to prevent a privacy outcry like the last time in Germany, Google is working closely with a German government privacy agency, ensuring that its imagery meets the country's data privacy regulations. Among them is a requirement to delete older images, which means that you won't be able to use Street View to travel as far back in time in Germany as in other countries.
Oh, that's a fun fact.
Yes. So basically, if Hivemapper were to map in Germany, right, they are basically forced to delete older imagery. Like, this is another example that every country in Europe has its own laws regarding data privacy, and there's, as far as I know, as you've mentioned, there is no clear guideline from Hivemapper regarding, okay, what is the license of mapping in specific countries. And also, if you go into the Explorer and you zoom out, you can also see, this is another concern that I have as well, is, for example, in China. So Google Maps is banned in China, right? They have their own map, which is, I think it's called Baidu Maps.
Yeah.
But if you go into the Explorer, you'll see that dashcams are mapping in China as well as in Russia, by the way.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting question. So okay, if you're mapping in as a Hivemapper mapper and you're mapping in China, you're basically breaking the law, right?
I would not love to be in their shoes if it could go as far as espionage.
Of course, of course. So what is the risk, right? What are the legal implications of as well China, the Chinese government, for example, and not only China, also Europe, finding out that Hivemapper is mapping in these countries without official licenses. And in China, it's pretty certain that they won't get a license because it's an American-based company. And also, what is the risk of the individual mappers, right? So, for example, the police officer, at least in Portugal, mentioned that the fine could go up to 50,000 euros for the individual, right? That's called mapping without a license. That's of course not the same amount that a company would get if they get caught mapping illegally, of course. Yeah, but this is an interesting point that you brought up, Mladen.
Yeah, I also think next to the fine, so let's say you are guilty of doing something that's bad. I'm quite sure that the court, if it comes to a court, would request the data collected by that dashcam to be removed. That's a hell of a job.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think the Hivemapper lawyers needs to revisit the drawing table again.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's not only about can you use a dashcam, right? It's okay. In some countries like Portugal, for example, Hivemapper sells dashcams to Portugal, but you are legally not allowed to film the roads with a dashcam.
Yeah, well, I think that part. Let's give the guys a little bit of credit. They cannot know where you are going to use the camera, so you for the same money you could be somewhere on the border of Portugal and Spain and mapping in Spain. So that part is up to the people who are buying the camera to know if they are compliant to the law. But the job we are doing for Hivemapper, that's another thing. We need some reassurance that that basically we are not going to get screwed by a fine.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this is a tedious process because you have to check every single the laws of every single country, and the licensing process is pretty long as well. So, but yeah, I agree. I think it's very important to get some transparency around, okay, if a driver gets caught in a specific country, for example, and a police officer takes away the dash cam because they are not allowed to do commercial mapping, okay, what then, right? And more importantly for the future of the project is if they were to get caught in Europe to map without a license, as we know from a couple of examples from Google and Apple, the fines for these companies are quite large. They're millions and millions of.
But you know what's the difference? Google has a last year a profit of 140, 160 billion. Oh, well, they can pay a fine of 1 billion or 2 billion or 3 or even maybe 10. They can do that. Hivemapper, the first fine would probably mean going out of business.
Yeah, exactly. I have a CNN article here that says Google says that they are compliant, but the privacy protection agency denies this claim. A CNN article. So it's not as straightforward to just install a dashcam and start mapping.
Yeah, I think this is a case where Hivemapper cannot just try and learn from mistakes. I think this is something that really needs to be fixed as soon as possible. If it's possible to be fixed, because I think it would take years to get licenses in all Europe.
Yeah, well, look at Google, right? They only returned to Germany this year, 2023. So they've been absent since 2010. So that's 13 years that Google has been absent from Germany. So I don't expect Hivemapper to just be able to just walk into the door in Germany and just do whatever they want. So yeah, to be continued.
Yeah, sure. Okay, what's next?
All right, so I think we can sum up a couple of issues and news points from this week. So let's start with the issues. So the most prevalent issues this week are or at least what you can see on Discord, is that the firmware of the dashcams aren't updating. So there are a lot of people that for some reason get the green and red lights, right? That's a very old firmware. It's 1 point something. But there are quite a few people complaining that the dashcam isn't updating. So that's interesting. We mentioned in the last week as well, but this issue is still present, and a lot of people have tried, right, opening the app, closing it again, reinstalling it. But for some, but for some reason it's still in most cases at least it won't update. All right, then there's still as well the GPS lock issues, right? We've seen a lot of people complaining, even today again, of the middle light of the dashcam not turning blue, right? So basically it's unable to get a GPS lock.
Yeah.
So Hivemapper is kind of to increase the quality of the data. They are not as relaxed with the GPS quality than they used to be, right? A lot of people complain, yeah, but it was working in version 1 and it's not working now. But it's an interesting.
To be honest, till the last firmware update, I never had GPS issues. I mean, I had one faulty camera, but it was replaced and everything was working as fine as it could. I just back for a 1,500 kilometer trip, and it was mostly highway and some provincial roads. Also no issues at all, to be honest. But then last week Monday I got into Amsterdam, and Amsterdam is like built with low buildings, so I always see a big portion of the sky, and still I'm now having a lot of issues. And the funny part is that I'm having the issues on the front camera, and on the side camera works perfectly. So I'm not sure why. So I tried switching the cameras as well, same effect. So somehow the moving model, or the position of the chip, or the angle to the sky, or something like that, the front cameras are having big issues. And I mean, it's not that bad in that sense. In my case, there is a 20% approximately difference in the amount of images between the two cameras. So I don't know. I'm not sure. my guess is that the hardware is simply not up to the job. That's we see that. I mean, if you induce more data quality and more processing being done by the camera, you induce more digital noise. Digital noise, harder to lock your trash, and then inducing even a tighter threshold. Well, that's a recipe for a disaster, and I hope they will come up with some external GPS modules or something like that. I really hope they will, because this hardware is like simply not good.
Yeah. We've discussed it before. The L1 chip isn't enough, and it'll be a fantastic help for at least those people that are having many issues with it. That they will be able to map again properly.
Yeah.
And it can be the car as well, right? We've mentioned that the heating, there are or there's some metal in some of the windshields, right, for the heating. That can also interfere with the GPS signal.
Those people were having problems since the beginning and never stopped. But I mean, in my particular cases, I never had issues for a camera being mounted on the same position in the same part of the car. So I still think it's hardware related, and I still don't
understand. Both.
Yeah. Well,
be both.
Let's see. So far so good, and they need to do something about that as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right. So that's mostly it in terms of issues. There haven't been any other significant issues beyond that. Then okay.
No, as you know, I'm not around there anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's actually quite refreshing not to be there every single day. But yeah, let's.
Well, a lot of these issues are recurring, right? So many people have them. Especially the firmware update has been kind of increasing in frequency over the last week. All right, so a couple of news points for this week. So MIP 6 has been implemented, right? So map improvement proposal 6 went into effect in this week's payment that went out this morning. So different people in different places are affected differently. So it has a lot to do with the weights and progress firmware. There is a nice blog post explaining everything in detail. But the difference hasn't been too much, right? So there's been some differences. Some regions have gone down a bit, some regions have gone up, but nothing too bad. So it's good that they're updating the formula, and it will get better through time. So if your earnings are a bit different from last week, it's most likely because MIP 6 went into effect.
Yeah, I had a quite funny experience. I think due to MIP 6. So 5 weeks ago, I went to Croatia, 1,500 kilometers that way. 2 cameras, I got something around 5,000-6,000 tokens. Not great, not bad. I mean, I didn't have to do anything for it, so okay, well, fine. But this week on a way back, yeah, I got almost 10K. So that's a significant difference. But then again, the most striking thing, I went through like 12, 13 regions, which was around 50 to 60% of my trip. And in one case, I had like 1,000 tokens from one region. And if I take a look at the regions, none of these regions are actually anywhere in the top 50 regions. So I think there will be some strange effects due to MIP6. But
Yeah.
we are still dependent of people coming in and doing their story. By the way, Meije, we have 10 more minutes to
go. We're practically done. I think
Yeah.
I think the last point from this week is we are currently at 51.4 million kilometers mapped. Of that, we are at 4.92 million unique kilometers mapped. And compared to last week, that's an increase of 3.8 million kilometers of total roads mapped, and an increase of 160,000 unique kilometers. That means that of the 3.8 million kilometers mapped last week, approximately 4% of that is or are unique kilometers being mapped. So we'll probably hit 5 million kilometers probably this weekend, I'd say. And then to reach the 6 million kilometers by the 1st of October is going to be tough. We mentioned it last week, but it's most likely not going to happen.
Yeah. But I'm then wondering one thing. What's going Hivemapper to do? Are they going to pay anyway, or are they going to postpone the date? It's going to be an interesting thing. That's one of those things. I think it's going to be a drama, no matter what I do. So it's going to I'm too bad. I cannot see that.
I mentioned it. I think I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago when we were having all of the issues, right? And also, don't remember, in the northern hemisphere we are going towards winter, right? Autumn and then winter. But every day we're losing a couple of minutes of daylight, so that's not helping. So yeah, I'm curious as well what's going to happen. I think.
By the way, I don't think that's the biggest issue, the daylight savings. The biggest issue is every day we come more close to the 1st of October, there are less free roads or less unmapped roads on that map. So it makes less and less sense to detour to come to the same location.
Yeah, actually, the best way to increase the unique kilometers is more neo-mappers, right? That's practically the only efficient way to rapidly increase the unique kilometers mapped.
Yeah, and then evenly spread, not just concentrating in cities, right?
Yeah, because if you look at Holland, right, and the UK as well, there's been quite a lot of activity and neo-mappers I've seen mapping in Holland. So and Holland is a small country, so most roads are already mapped, at least from what I can see from the Explorer. So I think personally just the best thing they could do is just postpone it a month. Let's say to the 1st of November. I think we will be able to make that, but we won't make the 1st of October.
We actually still don't know why we are doing that. Why do we need to come to 6 million, right?
Yeah, I mean it's part of the competition, right? So competition.
Is it a competition? Why there is a need to be 6 million? So I guess somebody asked them to do that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know either. It could just be a target, an internal target that they would like to reach.
Fair enough.
but yeah, it's not going to happen by October 1st at least, unless we get like 1,000 more mappers mapping in new regions.
Yeah, I'm also curious about the bounties. I think they are just up to expire. I'm not really sure if the pot is already empty for the Netherlands.
That's also an interesting point. Yeah,
I'm really curious what's going to happen after that. I mean, without bounties, it's, to be really honest, not worth doing it. I think in Portugal it's even worse, right?
yeah. So definitely, when the bounty was 10 million, right, per region,
Yeah,
but
correct.
but for sure, if these, I mean, they're only what, it's Holland, Portugal, South Korea, right? So there are only three regions with this bounty. But for sure, I mean, if the bounty stops, at least my fleet, we will probably migrate it to Brazil, because right now we're kind of on the line of sustainability, and if we lose the bounty, for sure, it's going to be game over for fleets at least, right? So if you have your own mapper and you don't really care, then they'll probably continue mapping. But for fleets without the bounty in these regions, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
Talking about that, there were a couple of regions added this week as well. From what I can see, is 19 regions in Australia and about 12 regions in the US.
Yeah, I think
So
we should discuss this topic maybe next time. I mean, the dilution of the global pot compared to the increase of the growth of the global pot. I think the dilution is growing way harder than the total pot is growing. I think that's a good topic to discuss, how that can be solved.
yeah. Let's do that for next week.
Yeah, I think we should wrap up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. There's not too much news this week.
Yeah.
That's it. So we'll monitor everything over the weekend, and then maybe there is some new stuff next week.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, guys. Mladen,
Well,
thank you again.
thank you as well, and
then see you next week.
yeah, till the next time.
All right, see you guys. Bye bye.
Bye.